Before even all that, there was a period of time where I was building the Orlando Magic technology and we weren't making any money. And our lead investor, his name is Andrew Steinberg. You might even know him, Phoenix Capital Ventures. Um, he's the lead investor in Prize Picks. He was like, "Hey, Aaron Robert Alim, I have this other portfolio company called Prize Picks that's crushing it right now in the bubble, because people are sitting at home getting stimulus checks, and it's the closest thing to legal mobile sports betting."
Hey guys, welcome to the How I Got Here podcast. I'm your host, Travis Waters, and I created this podcast to tell stories that are worth sharing, whether it's about somebody going from zero to hero, hero to zero, or simply something in between. On today's episode, we talked to Alim, who has had his toes dipped in many pools, been a part of multiple projects, most importantly, employee number 19 with Prize Picks. We talk about everything that led up to that, everything that happened after that, so please enjoy as we kick off this conversation with him now. Hey guys, it's me, Travis, with the How I Got Here podcast. On today's episode, we're joined by Alim, who has done a lot of things, not just inside of the sports betting and fantasy sports bet, but also outside as well. For those who may not know you by name or by face, do a very short, quick level, high level overview where you are right now, this second in 2025.
Well, first of all, thank you, Travis, for having me on. I'm excited to get to know you a bit more and dive in here. But right now, if you're asking where I'm physically located, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, home of Prize Picks, which is why I got here in the first place. I guess we'll talk more about that. But right now, I have just sold my education company, and I'm in the process of transitioning to a brand new startup that I'm building in the AI sales space. But yeah, I was formerly the head mobile engineer at Prize Picks for about 3 years, helped Prize Picks grow from 2,000 to 3 million users and the number one app on the App Store. And then I jumped ship to start building my own businesses.
All right. And so the question we always like leading off with these episodes is kind of going as far back into your memories as possible. What
Okay.
was the very first thing that you remember of this is what I want to be when I grow up? And how old were you roughly when you had that idea?
Bro, if you want me to go all the way back, I actually always wanted to be a house builder. Like I really wanted to build homes. I had this passion for like watching Home and Garden TV and like all these crazy, home TV shows when I was a kid. Like no joke, like 7, 8, 9 years old. I would just watch people build houses and stuff. And then I would make my parents go get me a bunch of popsicle sticks and build houses at home. Like that was like my hobby. Like I didn't play video games. I like asked my parents to buy me popsicle sticks and like a cardboard kind of, thing, and I would just build houses on it. And I just had this dream of being a home builder. And I think there was one point where I really wanted to be a carpenter, and I really liked building things with wood. Um, and yeah, man. So I've always been a builder. Ended up transitioning to something more techy, but that is what I wanted to be when I was young.
And on the subject of the transition, so you're building these things physically, the home building's the idea, and you're even I like the popsicle stick thing because I feel like there's a point of my life where I think because it started as something I did in school, but I would actually buy toothpicks and like wood glue and then kind of create these structures like look what I made out of toothpicks. And
Dude,
it's just
totally.
yeah. So it's very interesting to hear that. But at what point from you wanting to do these physical things, not just houses, but just the building physical entities, did that transition to anything else? Whether that went straight from that to the technical side, or what was like kind of the next phase of this is actually what I want to be when I grow up, or this is what I want to do?
Dude, 100%. I mean, my dad at the dinner table was the type of guy who wouldn't ask me about my grades. He would ask me about sports, and then he would show me um like articles on Yahoo Finance of kids that were like 15 years old, like selling their apps to Yahoo and like getting jobs at Google. You know those whiz kid stories. And like he would just show me this and be like, "Yo, why don't you do this?" Like he would never ask about my grades. He never asked me about my spelling tests, my multiplication tables, my GPA. He just really loved football, and he loved just making money. Like my dad was just a hardcore like just entrepreneur. He's been through a lot as well, but he always wanted me to be a technologist or technology entrepreneur because he would show me these success stories of all these kids, and like that was his vision for me, was like be an entrepreneur, work for yourself, but then be a technologist at the same time, because he knew that that was the only way that people were making hundreds of millions of dollars. Like the only way you can really make that type of money these days is a very scalable business model, and there's nothing more scalable than software. And then the multiples on software is incredible. And I think he just understood that that was the trend at the time, and that was the trajectory that he set me off on at the dinner table.
So how old were you when these conversations were happening, of him kind of opening your eyes to this is what's possible from a software slash tech standpoint?
It was early high school. It was definitely like freshman year, 14 years old. High school is when he would start bringing this stuff up because that's when I had, some sort of competence in life and I could kind of start making decisions. And I was starting to think about college. And I was starting to think about what I wanted to do. And yeah, I was about 14.
And so if this is early high school, how old were you when you knew exactly when that you wanted to go to college, what college, and but mainly when you knew what your degree you were going to seek was going to be?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as soon as like I started learning about, code and this stuff, I started teaching myself code. And so I started coming home every day after football practice, after whatever sport I was playing, and I'd go on codeacademy.com. Like I wouldn't even watch my own or I wouldn't even do my own homework. I would just go on codeacademy.com and just bust out as many coding exercises as I could. And I fell in love with it. I thought it was super cool how you could tell a computer to do exactly what you want. Um, and yeah, so I would just come home, do those things, and then I realized that like, yo, I can teach myself how to code. Maybe I don't need to get a computer science degree. Maybe I can like teach myself how to code and get into a business degree, and that way I can combine the two things to then achieve that outcome of like selling a software company. But during high school, I was working a lot. Like I was just that guy who always had a part-time job. I was probably the first one in the class to get a part-time job. My mom got me a job, like put the intro in to a guy at a mall who had a cell phone repair shop. And he's like, hey, my kid is like kind of technical. He's really interested in this stuff. Can you give him a job? So I was like 14 years old. I think we lied to the guy and said I was 16 and ended up getting a job fixing phones at the mall. And that was like my intro to like the tech world, if you will, and like just making money. Turns out I was working a little too much and my grades were slipping, but nobody really like checked in on it. Like I kind of just like told my parents like, "Yeah, don't worry, like I'm in honors, like I'll figure it out." But what happened, bro, was I was playing football, working, also being a high school kid, and I was working a lot. Like I was putting in like 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week in high school, and then I graduate, and next thing you know, I have a 2.9 GPA, and I got into like no schools. And I consider myself a smart kid. Like I totally could have put in the work and got a 4.0, but like I just didn't want to. Like I wanted to make money. And I wanted to learn how to code. So I graduated high school with a 2.9 GPA. I knew how to code, but I got into like really mediocre state schools. And I also didn't come from a lot of money, nor did I want to get into a lot of debt. Um, and so I ended up choosing to go to Sacramento State because it was close by home. It was relatively affordable. Like it wasn't like a $50,000 a year, University of California school, but it was about 20K a year, all in tuition and board. And like, yeah, we could swing that. Like that, my family was good enough to be able to swing that for me and not have to take on any debt. So I ended up choosing Sacramento State, and a lot of cool things came out of that. But I'll stop there and see if I piqued your interest on anything.
So no, that's very interesting. So not that I have a parallel on grade slipping because focusing on so many other things in terms of like the job and stuff, but uh, I mean I don't have the coder engineering skill set or drive that you had at this time, but I also was in a situation where it's interesting because you and I have parallels, but we also have a lot of our differences. And I was like, man, like I started thinking back, like if we tried harder in high school, like both of us could easily get a 4.0 GPA. Like that's not a thing, but like why your reason is because you're so focused on, the education or not the education, but the tech side of working and doing all these things. And like you said, being a high school teenager. And for me, I don't even think I had a job. So I go, wait, what was my excuse for having a 4.0? And for me, it was like, I didn't care. I don't know if it was like I was under challenged or whatever, but anyway, aside from me going back to you, just something that just kind of sparked that thought process in my head, like why did I not care about homework as much as I should have? So we're in Sacramento State. What was the exact like title of the degree that you were seeking there?
So I actually started in computer science. Um, I started in computer science, and then um, I ended up switching because I got like my first F on a couple classes there. And in my first semester, uh in my first semester I had taken like three computer science classes and went to my first midterms and literally got an F. and I was like, oh my God, I've never gotten an F before. And I started overthinking as if I was cut out for this. Um, and yeah, and then I quickly realized I'm like, yo, like I think I just made a bet, and I was just like, um, I think I just made a bet, and I said, hey, like I can teach myself how to code. I'm gonna drop out of computer science, and I'm gonna switch to business because I think I can teach myself all this stuff. And all these people in here are learning the basics. I'm gonna go straight into like building apps and building like sites, and I'm just gonna commit to like getting a business degree, which is like the easiest way out, and teaching myself how to code. So I started in computer science, and then ended up switching to business. Coincidentally, at that same time, I actually got a opportunity to join a club in at Sac State called Hornet Hyperloop, which was actually a SpaceX kind of program that he launched in colleges for colleges to build their own like Hyperloop pods. Are you familiar with the Hyperloop concept?
Uh, that's not the underground tunnel, right? No, maybe not.
It is the underground tunnel,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay. So yes, yeah, I am not very vaguely.
Okay, so that was exactly what it was. It was Elon Musk just doing one of his other things, big vision project, and he wanted to build an underground like high speed pod transportation system. So he deployed this program into colleges where college campuses could um, build their own Hyperloop pod prototypes. And so I got recruited for some reason. I was walking on the hall, or not the hall, but like our outside kind of um grass area, and there was a table there, and the guy was like, "Hey, come over here. Like, let me tell you more about this." And I thought it was cool. So it was an opportunity to kind of build this Hyperloop pod, and they were like, "We need a software development lead. Like, we need somebody to build us like a an app, like a web-based app that we could connect to our Hyperloop pod prototype with. And that way we could, manage the onboard control systems. And I was like, look, bro, I don't know how to do any of this. I'm just a freshman here, but like I just dropped out of computer science. I'm in business now, but I'm down to do this and figure it out. So I actually like joined that team, and it was like an on-campus startup team. Like these guys were going hard. Like these were the same cats as me who like were not going to class, like, building projects instead. Um, and it was just crazy. Like these guys were literally building like a real startup while sorry, I think there's someone at my front door. These guys were building a startup like while they were on campus, and it was like a real Hyperloop startup. So we would literally grind all night, coffee, you name it. Like we were just pretending like we were a startup. And the next thing you know, bro, we actually submitted our Hyperloop pod concept to SpaceX, and we ranked top 13 in the world from our pod design. And trust me, it was not just me. Like all I did was build a bit of an app, and they built the entire pod prototype. But like we had this like multi-hundred page um multi-hundred page like pod proposal, and then we got a message from SpaceX saying, hey, you guys rank like top 13 in the world. You guys rank like top 13 in the world. We want to invite you guys out to Hawthorne, California to present your pod to Elon Musk. And we were like, what? And so next thing you know, bro, now we're in like hyperspeed phase two. We didn't even think we were going to get in. We just thought we would grind on this and like send a proposal. But these guys who I was on the team with were super serious. Next thing you know, we got in, we accepted the opportunity to go to SpaceX. So for that next, I think 1 or 2 semesters, we just were grinding again, like same thing. But we were actually building the pod this time. We like raised money, we like fundraised, we got people to invest in us, and we essentially like made a pitch deck and did everything. And so while I was in college, we essentially built out this pod and raised money, built the entire pod. I even have a ton of pictures of it. I think there's a news article on my LinkedIn. But yeah, bro, like that was like my first startup. And I learned so much at the time. I ended up building this control system that would connect to the onboard processing unit. And we would actually control this huge Hyperloop pod. Like no joke, it was like as big as like twice the size of my desk, right? Like a full-size mattress, if you will. And I built this system that would connect to it, and it actually worked. So by the time I was a sophomore in college or second year in college, bro, like I had SpaceX on my resume. I'd gone out to Hawthorne, literally saw Elon Musk like within 10 feet. He came to our tent where we were presenting our pod, talked to us, asked us questions. Like, so I had this crazy experience by the time I was a sophomore, and I felt invincible at that point because most people like sophomore year of college like don't even get their first internships, or like they're barely, getting used to living away from home, blah blah blah. But like I had SpaceX on my resume. I had this top 13 in the world kind of accolade, And from there, like my career just started turning. Like I was getting internship offers left and right. Anywhere I applied, I got a job and just started making more money while I was in college. And then, not to get too far ahead, but yeah, like I was making money part time, like 35 bucks an hour, like a pretty solid junior engineer salary at my first internship. And I was able to start paying for college myself. And yeah, man, from there, it just kind of started turning. But I'll stop there.
So, because this happened roughly around the middle point of a 4 year degree, did you eventually graduate Sacramento State with a business degree, or did you have the success so early that you're like, I don't know if I actually need to finish this because I'm already on a hockey stick trajectory for my career?
I always wanted to drop out, but my parents wouldn't let me. Always wanted to drop out, man. Uh, I never really thought of like a hockey stick trajectory because I still was pretty humble at that time. I knew that there was still a lot more to do. I was just like barely getting started, but I knew I wanted to be in business. I knew I wanted to finish because my parents like just wouldn't let me drop out unless I was like building a startup that had a ton of, traction, but I didn't at that time. I was just kind of like crushing it in the job market, if you will. I wasn't really crushing it as an entrepreneur. I was more of just like this guy who finally got his skills up to where he could be in the job market early. So by like 19, I was able to get jobs. But like I wasn't an entrepreneur at this point in time yet. I was just like a guy who was trying to prove my family that I could like, make money. Um, so at that point, actually after the whole Hyperloop thing, we ended up just kind of splitting up the team at that point. A lot of the people were juniors and seniors, so they graduated. And then sophomore year at Sacramento State was really boring. Like there was nothing going on. There was no cool clubs. Um, and it was Sacramento. Like it's not Silicon Valley. It's not the Bay Area. It's not like like this metro city. Um, and so I ended up saying I wanted to leave, and I always wanted to be in Silicon Valley, but I didn't want to go to UC Berkeley. I didn't have the grades for Stanford, and there was one school that was a state school that was in the heart of Silicon Valley that I knew I could probably get into if I transferred. So that was San Jose State, and a lot of the same teachers at San Jose State were teaching at other schools too. So I ended up transferring. I applied and I transferred to San Jose State, and it was honestly the best decision I ever made because everybody in the Bay Area speaks the language of tech, wants to launch a startup. Like everybody on the San Jose State campus like had a startup, or at least they knew about it because they were raised in the Bay. The people who drink the San Jose State water, or excuse me, the Silicon Valley water, are definitely wired differently. And it was a huge culture shift. Like that is where I wanted to be. And you could hear the excitement in my voice because honestly, man, like that was like my element. Like I was at Sacramento State for 2 years at the beginning. That was cool because I found this club, but without that club, there was nothing going for me there. When I got to San Jose State, that's when I started building my own startups. I joined like the startup entrepreneurship club on campus. I started volunteering at a lot more stuff. I had startups like reaching out to me. My friends were having, internships at huge companies like Adobe and Google and Microsoft and Facebook. And dude, like we were just like going to all these uh company offices on the weekends and like it was crazy. Like we were like living what you see in the show like Silicon Valley. Like that type of culture truly does exist in the Bay. So I spent the last 2 years of my college journey at San Jose State, but without a surprise, I spent most of that time like building startups and building companies. That's actually where I got into my first sports tech startup and got my journey started in sports tech, which I'm sure we'll get into here shortly.
I like the reference to the Silicon Valley show because I feel like it's one of the most underrated shows of all time. I absolutely loved that show to death. But so we transfer, we go to San Jose State. It's much more of the not just the industry or the aura, but just the environment that you want to be part of, especially having that tech engineering mindset. So from finishing college at San Jose State, because you already have this very robust resume, like you said, like SpaceX is on your resume as a sophomore in college. Not necessarily how difficult was it, because you're already saying that it's not difficult because you have that robust resume, but how quickly after finishing your degree did you get your first non-paid internship role, or your first like this is my full-time gig now with all of the stuff that I've done in the last 3 or 4 years?
So real quick, like it wasn't even after I got um It wasn't even after I graduated college. It was like while I was in college because I never ended up getting a job, bro. Like when I got to San Jose State, um, when I got to San Jose State, I got my first job as a CTO at a startup. It's kind of crazy, but I'll tell the story real quick. I was walking the corridor at San Jose State, and this kid walked up to me with a card, and everybody at San Jose State like was promoting a startup. It was crazy. This was 2015, by the way. So not 2015, 2016, 2017, by the way. So like this is when like startups are the coolest thing to do if you're like an upper millenn or lower millennial kind of. Gen Z wasn't even like a thing back then. It was just like us, right? Like our generation, and like the coolest thing to do was build a startup like at that point in time. And so everybody had a startup. This kid walks up to me with a card. He says, "Hey, download my app." And it's like a friend matching app where you can like sort your interests on this app and it would match you up with people on campus who had very similar interests to you based on its like matching algorithm. So I did this app real quick. This kid, Amir, really good friend of mine still, he gives me this card. I did the app, and the next thing you know, I matched with the founder of the app, and he was a technical developer. He reaches out to me on his own app, and he says, "Hey, bro, nobody's ever scored as close to me on the app as you have. Like, we have like a 90 something percent match rate." He's like, "We should chill." And I was like, "Oh, okay, kind of weird if you think about it." It's like this like random guy who built this app is messaging me saying we should chill, like you're just like me. It was really weird, really, really weird. But honestly, there was some like fascination to all that too, because like I realized like how powerful tech was. Like, you know, like you were just matching all these people, and I'd never built an app that like had served a lot of people before. I built this Hyperloop pod prototype thing, but like that was just like a project. So this is when I like finally got my taste of like, yo, you can build like an app and actually have hella users, and like hella people can like use it, and like you can like big brother all these people through your app. Like I got this like weird mindset of like, yo, this is how like, you know, consumer apps are like made and managed. Like this kid just like summoned me, you know, like I just got this really weird like, you know, fascination for how it works. Anyways, we ended up chilling. I met him at a good location. You know, we I said come to the campus, like
A
we'll meet here.
well lit location.
Yeah, for sure. I said come to the campus, we'll meet here, bro. Um, and yeah, he came out and we met. And then he ended up saying, "Hey, bro, this is actually just one of my passion startups. I actually am working for a pre-seed funded sports tech company, and we're looking for a developer to, you know, help us build some software. You know, they have money. If you know how to build apps, would love, you know, for you to join my team." Um, so I ended up saying like, "Yeah, bro, how much does it pay?" He ended up getting me on the phone with the founder. The founder's like, "We can pay like 3K a month," which was like a lot of money for me. I was like, "Yo, 3K a month while I was in college." And I just for fun like countered. I'm like, "Can you do 3,500?" And the guy's like, "Sure, we'll do 3,500." Because bro, to hire a developer in Silicon Valley for 3,500 bucks a month is impossible, right? And so I didn't know this because I'm just a college kid. I'm like, "Bro, I'm making 48K a year, like 40K a year in college. Like, bro, my tuition, my room and board is 20." I was balling, bro, and I was on 1099. I had no idea like what that type of money meant. And I was like, "Mom and Dad, like, y'all don't have to pay for shit anymore. Like, I got this. Like, I'm getting a 1099 check every 2 weeks for almost 2,000 bucks." And anyways, forget the money. I started building the sports tech company, and I was the lead developer on the web app. I started building this web app. I should even tell you what the app was, by the way. It was a company called Season Share, and we had raised money from the San Francisco 49ers. Well, the founders did, Robert and Aaron. They had raised money from the San Francisco 49ers to build a season ticket splitting and sharing platform where sports fans could share their season tickets with other people. Think of it like the Airbnb, but for season tickets, right? And our value proposition was like the San Francisco 49ers were building a brand new stadium at that time, and they had more people on the wait list for their season tickets than they did seats in the stadium. So they wanted to invest in us to build this software to help fans get more seats, or excuse me, help more fans get into seats. So we ended up building this platform, bro. It was a fantasy style draft system where you authenticated your Ticketmaster account. We would pull in your season ticket. You would invite people to join your group, and we would do a fantasy style draft so that people could share their tickets, you know, fairly. And if people were paying the same, they should be splitting the tickets the same. We found that there was problems with people sharing season tickets where they would keep the good games and dish out all the shitty ones, right? And so we built this platform, bro. Ended up launching it to the waitlist of San Francisco 49ers. A dozen or so people used it, but overall it was kind of a flop. and we didn't really make much money from it. Like the 49ers and us couldn't really figure out like how to turn this into like a very profitable, like exciting business. We thought that it had a lot of potential. And then keep in mind, back in 2016, it was very, well, I'm going to say relatively easy to build to raise money. Like my co-founders over there are fantastic. The business is still alive and they're crushing it, but those guys are just monsters and they just know how to raise capital. Um, so we ended up launching that to a bunch of different teams. Orlando City Soccer Club, San Antonio Spurs, San Francisco 49ers. We got a deal with Seattle Kraken. We were actually one of the first people to know that Seattle Kraken was even a thing. We were working with Seattle Kraken before they even launched the team. Like they were just this expansion team, and we were working with them to build the season ticket sharing platform because they knew they were going to have the same problem. And Ticketmaster kind of referred us as development partners to them. So we were one of the first people on like the stealth team to know that Kraken was going to come out. But anyways, bro, so like I had gotten that job or during college, ended up graduating with that job. At that point, I got promoted to CTO, and the other guy that I'm talking to you about, he ended up going off to do his own thing. I don't know why he didn't stick around. He just wasn't a sports guy. He just wanted to do his own thing. But anyways, I ended up taking over and becoming the lead dev. And then after I graduated college, I negotiated a deal saying, "Yo, guys, like if I'm the lead dev, I want to be the CTO. Like I can handle this. I have a degree in, management information systems, and I had a minor in computer science at that time while I was building the app. I definitely knew I was qualified for the role, and you couldn't hire somebody cheaper than me. Like I was only asking for like 6 or 7 thousand a month at that time. I think by the time I graduated college, I was making like 7K a month. Plus, I had significant equity in the company, and we had built out a development team under me. Um, and I moved home. I moved home, started saving money, working on this tech startup, and to be honest, bro, it only lasted like 6 months before the company went out of business. But before I get there, I'll let you ask any questions that you might have.
Well, that was kind of the next follow up question is okay, so you had this, things are working out, you graduate, 7K a month, move back home, and then 6 months later, company goes under. Now, I guess a question I have is I believe you said a minute or so ago that the company's thriving now, or is that just a different company that you were referring to? Because it sounded like you were talking about the same company, but you're like, oh, they're crushing it now. But you said, I don't know. I guess to clarify, this was focusing on like the 49ers. That was the first kind of team focus, and then you had the other contracts to like Seattle Kraken, Orlando City Soccer, all these other ones you were mentioning. So is that company still active today?
Yes, it absolutely is. And they recently raised a $1.8 million round from a VC fund. I ended up departing the company. We'll talk about that in a moment. Um, we'll talk about that in a moment. But I ended up departing that company, but they're still around. We ended up pivoting the business from Airbnb to Netflix. I'll share what that means. But bro, like the business shut down because of COVID. Um, when COVID hit, nobody was going to ticketing, like nobody was buying tickets, right? Like nobody was going to sporting events. And so we ended up shutting the company down, and one of our lead investors said, "Hey, you guys shouldn't take a salary, like you guys need to stop." And so we stopped. And then I came up with the idea of like doing webinars with these sports VPs and these sports executives. My co-founder Aaron jumped on the opportunity right away, started holding webinars. Orlando Magic said, "Hey, we have this program called the Fast Break Pass that is crushing it for us. Can you guys rebuild it?" Essentially, it's a subscription style ticketing program where you pay 99 bucks a month and you get access to games right before the game. And so my technology would text the people, "Hey, are you available tomorrow night? We'll assign you a ticket if you are." So you pay the system 99 bucks a month and you'd get access to our system to get games. Anyways, so we ended up shutting down the entire season ticketing business and then built this new one with the Orlando Magic. I didn't have the time to build a brand new platform, so while we were in COVID, we were kind of part-time hacking this platform. The Orlando Magic during the NBA bubble finally got some people in the stadium, and we launched with like 90 fans. And I was manually assigning these people on a SQL database their seats with 90 fans. Ended up working, and we did like maybe 15,000 in GMV that day, because that's how much the tickets were worth. And we had a business. Next thing you know, Orlando Magic was like, "Yo, we have more games." So we were launching game after game after game with the Magic, and other schools were hitting us up at that time because we were the only ones that figured this thing out. We ended up signing the biggest football program in the country, Ohio State Buckeyes, Florida Gators. Damn, bro, we launched every team you can think of. You name a team, we had them on season share, and we were crushing it, bro. We scaled from 0 to 10 million GMV in like no joke, bro, 6 months, like 6 to 8 months. Uh, and all this while actually let me tell the story correctly. I'm doing all this, right? We're building this company part-time. I'm building this part-time as a CTO. I'm building a team under me. And before even all that, sorry, I kind of messed up the story, but before even all that, there was a period of time where I was building the Orlando Magic technology and we weren't making any money. And our lead investor, his name is Andrew Steinberg. You might even know him, Phoenix Capital Ventures. Um, he's the lead investor in Prize Picks. He was like, "Hey, Aaron Robert Alim, I have this other portfolio company called Prize Picks that's crushing it right now in the bubble, because people are sitting at home getting stimulus checks, and it's the closest thing to legal mobile sports betting. And Prize Picks was this dinky little idea, and they had a really shitty app. I downloaded it when I first heard about it, and it was this really dinky app that was like slow, but it was cool, bro. It was cool. It was like you saw these players and you could click on them and put a $50 entry and win 200. Like it was a cool idea. And I hated betting because the only thing at the time was like DraftKings and FanDuel, right? And it was like salary cap. And I just put $100 in here and there on those salary cap sites and I always lost it. And I was like, this isn't for me. So when I saw Prize Picks, I was like, yo, this product is cool. But anyways, bro, during that period of time I'm talking about where, we're building for the Orlando Magic, I actually didn't have a job, wasn't making any money. And so the Andrew Steinberg hit us up and said, "Hey, I got this portfolio company named Prize Picks. Alim, if you're looking for an opportunity, you should interview with Jay and Adam. They're cool guys." And Jay and Adam. And I'm like, "All right, cool." Ended up getting on a call with Jay and Adam. We loved it. They loved me. I really, really liked their product. And we started going back and forth to figure out how I could get involved. I ended up joining as the head mobile developer because that's what I was building at the time was mobile apps. And Jay was like, "Yo, Alim, football season's coming up. Like we got like 4 months till the new NFL season kicks off. We have this shitty app. I've been developing it myself. Like Jay literally was developing it himself with his friend that he was high school friends with. And he's like, bro, like we need a full-time developer to take this over. And I'm like, all right, cool. What's the situation? He's like, you got to launch this app by football season. And I'm like, how much time do we have? We had like 100 days till NFL kickoff. And I was like, fuck it, bro. I'll get it done. So I ended up joining Prize Picks. We made an offer work. I was employee 19, the second engineer on the team. It was Jay, Adam, and me. Second developer on the team. Built the entire mobile app from scratch. Launched it in 90 something days, right in time for the football season, with a brand new onboarding flow. I think that's the time that you maybe had been working with Prize Picks as well. Brand new onboarding flow, brand new experience, bro. This was a time where I shit you not, Travis. I was doing whatever I wanted at Prize Picks. Like I was putting buttons where I wanted. If I wanted something somewhere, I would put it there. If an affiliate told me they wanted this, I would put it there. Boothie would be like, "Yo, Liam, can you program the ability to put Twitch streaming links in for esports?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, bro, I got you." Like we would just toss that in there, bro. We just like did whatever we wanted at Prize Picks. But before I get too far down that route, yeah, bro, like that was the progression. Like I was actually working on the startup and then got poached to move to Prize Picks right as that other startup was dying. But then, bro, like I was working at Prize Picks full time and scaling season share up part time. Um, this is about a year after college, working on two startups at the same time who are both growing very quickly. And I had no idea what to do. I had
I
no idea what to do at that time.
It's so interesting because uh, I love doing this. I love doing this podcast because, I mean, I knew the general gist about you and more or less. I didn't know much about the path that got you to where you are today, which is why I love doing the show. But I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I'm in Orlando, Florida. I'm like the most hardcore Magic fan. So the fact that you had that relationship, and I know you said earlier that you had a contract with Orlando City Soccer, and I was like, oh man, like you're over there, but you're working on all all my teams. So that's very interesting. And then it's also the small world scenario of I don't think you and I knew each other, or maybe you even knew of each other when you were creating this mobile app for Price because that is about the time that I first partnered with them as a content media I don't know, affiliate, brand ambassador, whatever you want to call it. But when you just said, like, when an affiliate said, hey, can you add this, you'd be like, yeah, I got you. And I remember that was my favorite thing about Price Picks early on, is because they were not small in terms of product but small in terms of team, that if I had my community say like, oh, we don't like this, or we really like if this happened, that I could just like jump in. I think it was like a Slack channel with, I don't know if it was like Jay or Adam, or whoever it was. And I'd be like, hey, like, is there a way that we can like do this instead of this? And they would like, if it made sense, they'd be like, yeah, let's see it. And it's always interesting that I mean, I definitely didn't know of you or who you were at that time, but you were the person behind the scenes that was actually making those things happen. I was like, small world, this is so crazy. Like, there's probably, I can't even imagine how many things that I requested that it was you that implemented over the course of like the first, I don't know, 12 months of partnership relationship with PrizePicks. So that's it's so interesting. So, I mean, I love this story so much. You made such like a big bet on yourself, on switching like the degrees, focusing on business, teaching yourself code to where joining this Hyperloop team, and then I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't say like you got lucky, but you set yourself up for a position if opportunity knocks, the door's already open, and so you're going from before even college, all these opportunities, and then you're not even like stressing after college of, okay, now that I have a degree, where am I going? You were already there. Then you have the pivot with COVID of transitioning from the season ticket thing into what Orlando Magic was doing, which I've never personally, I don't think, signed up for that, but that's always been such an interesting concept, because there's so many NBA games, and having the ability to pay like X amount of dollars and then essentially guaranteeing you like a game here and there is a lot more budget friendly for everybody that lives in Orlando, and is easy to commute to it. But anyway, so your full time Prize Picks, your part time, I believe you said it was still called Season Share, even if the season ticket thing wasn't the main focus. They still kept the company name the same. Is that right?
It actually rebranded like a year ago, funny enough, to Attend, Attend, Attend.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, now they're building like technology that powers like music venues and all kinds of stuff too. Like Aaron's always wanted to like just change the way that like season tickets, or excuse me, ticketing across music, sports, entertainment have been done. And so he's doing a great job at that. And I ended up hiring this kid out of college that he was my really good friend, and he was actually my like I was the J at Season Share, and then he was the Alim, like he was my lead guy. Ended up leaving Season Share and promoting him to CTO, and now he's the CTO at Season Share.
I think out of everything in the last like 5 minutes that we kind of just went through, I think my favorite thing is that I don't even know how to word it. I might have to get back to this. I had this idea and I tried to put it into words and I just like had a brain fart. I'll get back to that in a second. But there's something that I definitely liked about the path here of, oh, it was the networking. This is something I stress a lot, both whether I'm doing these episodes or outside these episodes, when I'm talking to people who are just getting into, whether it's the space that I'm in or just the entrepreneurial mindset and environment, is like networking is everything. Networking is so important. And you like, if you're someone who doesn't like talking to people or doesn't like being the icebreaker or whatever it may be, like you got to figure out some way around that, because in your scenario with was it the Phoenix Capital, like I mean, it's you were networked because you were running, working at one of the companies, but because of that relationship of I don't know if they were the lead investor, but one of the investors of, Season Share, then the relationship kind of puts you in the Prize Pick spot. I mean, it's, even though your brain needs to be at a certain level to have all of the skill sets you had when it comes to the engineering side, I still think that the quote of, it's not what you know, it's who you know, I still feel like that's like a peg above. So if you have both of those pegs in theory at a certain level, like boom, you're in the best case scenario right now. So let's now catch up. We're at full-time Prize Picks, part-time Season Share still at the time. How soon after getting that full-time role with Prize Picks did you bump your friend into the CTO role and then step back from Season Share?
Dude, it was hard because like I had built this whole company from the ground up, bro. Like I was a co-founder. Like I literally started that from a napkin and built the entire thing. Um, and so I felt terrible at that time. And it was my first rodeo. I didn't really have this business objective mindset of like, fuck it, it's just a business. Like I can move to something else. I also didn't build the company in a way where I always thought that like it depended on me. Like just like you were saying at the beginning of this call, like you have to be there all the time. I actually was there all the time. Every code base depended on me. Everything depended on me. And it was very hard. I was very emotional about it. I didn't really know if it was something that was the right thing to do. I felt very bad about leaving my co-founders behind, felt very bad about my employees that I worked hard to hire. I brought on like my good friends from college, like my best roommate, like my best friend. His name's Jonathan. He still works at Season Share. And I brought him on. I convinced him to join my team and I was like, "Yo, come work for us." Anu, a good friend from class, like we would do homework together. I brought her on. She still works there. Uh, Sarang, H.I.G.H. I literally built that entire team of my friends who believed in me. And then there was a point in time where I had to be selfish and be like, yo, bro, like I have this new opportunity called Prize Picks. And I was like, bro, I think that my time is better spent here. This is a rocket ship that I cannot afford to miss out on. I just had this feeling. So, bro, it was very, very difficult. It took a few months, a lot of tears shed, to be honest, a lot of just like anxiety, even some days I was like, fuck, like, did I do the right thing? Um, but it was probably about 2, 3 months after because I also needed to start thinking about my own mental health. Like I was busting ass every day, 15, 16 hours a day, working on prize picks for my first 9 hours, then doing season share at night, managing the team in between. Bro, like I was ruining my mental health. My friends didn't really like me anymore. I didn't really like give people my good energy. My parents were, always just seeing me in my room busting my ass and like ended up starting to think about like my life long term and how I wanted to move out, how I wanted to have like a normal life where I, went out, had friends and like did all kinds of stuff and not just be a startup monkey. Um, so yeah, bro, ended up making that tough decision, lost some friends, lost some, good relationships in the process, but uh it turned out to be a pretty solid decision in the long term.
So when you first got the opportunity to come on to the team at Prize Picks, what year are we in right now? Is it 2018?
This is 20, no, no, no. I joined Prize Picks in 20, I always forget my brother. I think 2020.
Okay, so 2020, your Prize Picks, you
I'm gonna
uh,
check my LinkedIn, but yeah, something like.
the link to never lies.
No,
Uh,
it doesn't. I
so
joined, yeah, August 2020. Yep, that was football season 2020. Yep, correct.
so it was essentially so they brought you on like COVID had just this is the craziest like COVID was the craziest thing for everybody. I understand that. But on the sports side of things, like if you came up to me in March of 2020 and you're like, Travis, I bet you that March Madness is not going to happen. I would have literally bet you my entire house that it was going to happen. There was no way in the world one of the most monetized events that last multiple weeks is not going to happen. Like they'll just make it where people like don't come, like they did with the NBA bubble and here in Orlando, Florida. Why World of Sports? That still has an asterisk next to the Lakers championship because I don't know why, but people don't consider that a championship.
Yeah,
Regardless,
yeah,
like I'm like I would have said yes. I will bet you my house. And then when I heard that March Madness was going to happen, that specific notification, getting that from like the ESPN notification app, that's when I knew that like oh I'm in for like a world of trouble. If they cancel the most monetized, most sponsored multi-week event on planet Earth, then I need to figure out a plan B because I was also at that time in the sports betting fantasy sports space. And I was like, holy crap, everything I've worked for is like flushed down the toilet. Sports
for
are
sure,
actually not happening across the globe.
for sure.
And so that was definitely, that was like, oh man, that was okay, do I get back into entertainment? Like, what should I do? So 2020, sports shut down. Jay and Adam bring you on, give you that 4 month runway, the 100 days, whatever, to kind of rebuild that mobile app from scratch. You launch it NFL season. Now, how I know there's only kind of like a almost exactly a 5 year window from today. So how long were you essentially, I guess, working at Prize Picks before you left to kind of work on your own things? What was the period of time there? You can check LinkedIn again if you need to.
No, I was at Prize Picks for about 2 years and 9 months or something like that, just shy of 3 years. Um, and I had started when I was employee 19. I left when we were in like the 300s of employees, and I was one of, I think we grew the engineering team to about 20. And yeah, I had a whole team, working alongside us. We had like five back end, five front end. I was the lead front end. We started hiring managers, started hiring a lot of hierarchy above us, and I didn't want to write code long term, and I had, yeah, just gotten bored and tired. And I just saw the business turning into kind of more of a machine where it was like, hey, we're just going to plug people into a machine. And as much as I really wanted to stay and continue to contribute and like build longer with them, I just like was tired. I was like, yo, like I don't want to be writing code every day. I've been writing code every day for 6 years. Was writing code every day at Season Share, writing code every day at PrizePicks, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought that was finally the time in my life where I was like, I want to detach from, early employee mindset. I definitely always considered myself an entrepreneur, but I was always like a number two guy. Like at Season Share, I was number two, right, as CTO. Prize Picks number 19, but I kind of felt like a number five or six at Prize Picks. Um, as far as engineering goes. But anyways, I've always been like a number two or a number five, you name it. I've never been a number one. And I was like, I want to see what life is like as a number one, where I live life on my own terms. I also was pretty vested into my stock at PrizePicks, and I was like, you know what? I'm 75% of the way in. Um, I'll leave the 25% or the 30% on the table. Like that's fine. And I did the math in my head. I'm like, I can make this on my own. Like the money that I'm leaving on the table, I can definitely take a shot at making more on my own. And so I did. And I left to start Ambitious Labs because I saw that AI, ChatGPT, no code, Flutterflow, all these like low code and AI technologies were making it significantly easier for anybody to build their own mobile app startup, or excuse me, their own apps generally. Like we were seeing people build apps without writing any code, and ChatGPT was blowing up. And I had launched this app into the store part time while working at PrizePicks, and I was making like $1,000 a month just organic cash flow from this app that I launched in like 3 weeks, 3 days, sorry. So yeah, bro, about 2.5 or 2 years, 9 months in, I left to build an education company. I also saw that there was this cool opportunity out there to build a high ticket sales led company where you could hire salespeople, you could run ads, you could offer a course or a program. And I never wanted to be one of those scammy course creators, like, because I knew I had the accolades. Like, I knew I could teach people. I knew that I wasn't just gonna like go out and scam people and sell them a dream on like Amazon drop shipping and shit like that. I actually really wanted to teach people how to build software, and I launched my own full stack app development academy called Ambitious Labs, where we taught people how to build apps. I ran a full stack development boot camp intersected with business. So everything I've talked to you about today about how I wanted to be a business person and a software developer, I built my dream program. I built a program that I would have loved to have gone to, or that my dad would have wanted for me. And I knew that there was a market for that out there. There was entrepreneurs who had an idea for an app, didn't know how to code, maybe have gotten scammed by hiring developers overseas on Upwork, on Fiverr, blah, blah, blah. And I built this really cool program where you could work with me and my team hands on, and we would teach you how to build your own software startup. We charged anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 for a 12-week program. And yeah, bro, I was running that business for the last 2.5 years.
So doing my math on the timetable, so it sounds like that's launched roughly what, like spring 2023. Does that sound about right based on your
Yeah,
two?
actually, that's actually perfectly right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, 2 years, 9 months, hired at Prize Picks this time. I'm like doing the math when you're
Yeah,
going
you're
through
smart.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of around the time I think when PlayerProps.ai kind of became the first brain baby, and then of course we spent the next 12 months kind of figuring out the engineering side and everything else. But you you had the it sounds like you had the idea for Ambitious Labs prior to leaving Prize Picks, where you left Prize Picks because that was the idea you wanted to work on. It wasn't just I want to work on my own things and then you figured it out afterwards. You already had the idea, like, hey, if I'm leaving this, I need to make sure that I know what I'm doing, I know what I want to build, and I know what it to become. Like you're saying, there's a lot of other no code or low code apps that were out there. So we're now in spring 2023. You've launched this. It's only what, like less than 2 years from today, roughly. And then you mentioned the very beginning when you introduced yourself that, like, not even super recently, like this month, right? You just had what you spent the last 2 years building with, which is this code helping boot camp, if you will, had that acquired. So kind of go through those details there.
Yeah. Um, so I ended up leaving PrizePicks, launched this company. We actually raised a bit of angel funding to launch this education startup. One of my, one investor from PrizePicks actually really, liked me. We ended up kicking it off. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to get spammed. But we ended up kicking it off. He's a really great guy, and he ended up funding. He ended up telling me like, "Yo, Liam, like whenever you launch your own venture, like hit me up. I want to participate." So we ended up funding my next venture, and which was Ambitious Labs. So he wrote an angel check, which got me off the ground and got me to kind of build out the team and start like start creating results for people and building out the program. And anyway, so we ended up just getting right to the races and just started building because we had an investor pretty much lined up from the second I left. And that's what comes with, having a track record and having, a network and just being in the right places. Like raising money isn't that difficult, but like raising money from the right person is much more difficult now. You know this, just like you were saying at the beginning. Anyways, we ended up using that money to build the education program. Over the 2.5 years that I ran the business, we generated about $3 million in revenue from just the education side. We ended up launching a venture studio as well in 2025 this year in January. Ended up taking on 3 to 4 projects with some large creators and influencers. And so the venture studio model is that I partner with major influencers who have over 100,000 followers on any platform, and we'll help them build software. So I'm working with William Rivera. We ended up scaling a Amazon analytics company from zero to 868K ARR, just shy of a million ARR in 90 days. I'm working with, I can't say his name, but I'm working with one of the best stock trading gurus on, I'm not going to say guru, best stock trading teachers on YouTube with over 350,000 subscribers on building an AI powered stock analytics, stock analysis tool. Big words don't mean much. Big words. And then we just partnered with a career influencer as well with about 500K subscribers across all platforms to build a career platform. Um, and then we're also building a logistics tool for another business that already runs logistics, just more manual. We're building them a tool to like streamline it. So the venture studio kind of birthed out of Ambitious Labs, where we had 2 businesses running, education and then the venture studio. Um, yeah, and then both businesses doing really well. Venture Studio is probably going to do like 1.5 this year. Nah, like yeah, 1.5 this year. The education business was on track to do like 1.8 before I sold it. So yeah, I just really saw a lot more opportunity and just a lot more excitement in building products. Education was a lot of fun, but I personally was just kind of not the right person to lead that company day to day. The company's still running. That's one thing I try to make sure happens is like I want to make sure that whenever I build something, it's there for the long term. And so, long story short, bro, ended up selling Ambitious Labs education only, my education unit, to a company called Rapid Dev about, I don't know, probably about 4 to 5 weeks ago at this point. We sold it for a nice EBITDA multiple, so based on profit, so that they had something that they could chase and make back. And then the business is still running. They're still onboarding new students. They're still operating the company and they're scaling it up. It was a great play for them. They're a roll-up company, and they're buying a bunch of software development businesses to roll them up and combine all their resources. And yeah, man, ended up exiting that last month to focus on the venture studio and building software products.
And then, so you said that still the venture side is something that's still part of the entity that you're working on still, but I believe that you also launched something within the last few months, whether it was you saw that you, let me rephrase that question. One, what did you just launch as well? I believe it was the AI coaching platform. And then the follow-up question to that is, was the idea to agree to sell the education side of Ambitious Labs because you were working on that and because you were seeing success with that? It's like, okay, I have this new flashy toy. This is what I want to focus on. This is working out. Let me sell off this part. Or was it just something that came out of thin air while the acquisition talks were happening? Does that make sense?
Yeah, Closure Coach was an iron in the fire that I had. Closure Coach is an AI sales optimization software that I'm building, but that was an iron in the fire that I've had for a couple months. Like I built that product. I raised like $50,000 from like a strategic investor who wanted the product to exist. We ended up taking on 50K from this person. We ended up deploying it to build the product kind of part time. I kind of just wanted this product to exist because I knew that there was potential in it. Um, and then yeah, like I always knew that this had a lot of potential while I was running the education company. This product, Closure Coach, actually existed as a product of the Venture Studio. Um, it was just one of the products in there. But after after some time, when I knew that I was gonna exit education, I knew that that was the next thing I was gonna focus on long term because the The other projects in the venture studio, like we have great developers and PMs that run that, but like I needed a project of my own to scale up and sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. Like there's definitely the one thing that I wanted to focus on, which was Closer Coach. But I think the one thing that has been missed in this conversation is the whole Prize Picks acquisition, which it came out of complete nowhere. I'm sitting at my desk just like this, kind of stressed out, running the education company. And with the education company, it was hard. It was hard to run. You know, we had $100,000 a month in marketing spend, a team of 10 salespeople, 10 operations people, uh, lots of money flying around at one point in time, just a high cash flow, high turnover business. Um, I'm sitting here kind of stressed out, and I get a text from my old colleague at PrizePicks saying, "Hey, congratulations, you know, we did it." It didn't say that. It said something a little bit crazier, but I'm not gonna say it. It said we did it, and I'm like, "What did we do?" Boom. Then I get a text message that says, "Wall Street Journal, PrizePicks sells 63% stake to Allwyn for 2.5 or for $1.7 billion all cash." And I'm telling you, my brother, I probably was this close to having a heart attack. Like I was freaking the fuck out. I was yelling and screaming. I had my friend staying over with me because he's just moving to Atlanta. He was in my guest bedroom downstairs. He's like, "Are you okay? Like, did you get hurt? Are you like sick? Are you dying?" I'm like, "Bro, Prize Picks just sold." Um, and I could have never imagined a $2.5 billion valuation, bro. Never. Uh, at the time that I joined, you know, we were talking about selling for 100 million, 200, 300. We had put $1 billion like on the spreadsheet at one point in time, and I remember like seeing that, like, yo, I think we can get to a billion. Is it likely? No. Is it possible? Yes. Because $1 billion unicorn, man, is a hard thing to do, especially with what I knew about Prize Picks. We were all just a bunch of kids. I mean, you were in the company, like you knew us. We were all just a bunch of kids, bro. Just 25, 30, 35-year-old people just figuring out what to do, building the coolest, fantasy sports product. Anyways, I was like, damn, completely shocked. My life had changed in the matter of that one text, because I was super early, at least early enough. I didn't make like I can't retire, but like I can now, I have a lot more flexibility in what I can and can't and choose to work on. Um, and so when that hit, I was like, oh my God, like I don't have to focus on short-term cash flow now. Um, I get to now take moonshots and I get to now think about how do I sell my own company for $100 million. And I don't have to think about how I'm going to pay my mortgage next month. Or how I'm going to, save up for a wedding or, whatever, all this stuff. Um, and so, yeah, man, that kind of fueled me to be like, yeah, bro, now's the time. God's telling me it's the time. I had a buyer in my back pocket who I knew wanted to buy my education business. It was a relationship that I had built over a couple years. Um, and I'm like, now's the time. Like, let's just keep the momentum going. God's giving me some messages. He's telling me to take this money, build something bigger, hand off the reins to this company and focus on building products. Because the truth be told, my brother, like building a service-based education company was a ton of fun. I changed over 1,200 people's lives, generated 4.9 star reviews, absolutely had a lot of fun, employed a lot of people, changed a lot of people's lives. Uh, but I really was missing building products that were scalable and like getting my hands on software. And I know you're a software founder, so you know how fun it is to like build a feature that have people use it and then like A/B test and look at metrics, and it's just a lot more scalable. Like whereas anytime I onboarded 10 new students to my program, I'd have to make sure I have an instructor for them. I'd have to make sure that they don't refund. I have to make sure that they leave a review. There's a lot of touch involved in a service-based company. So, yeah, man, I ended up now saying like, yo, it's the time in my life where I get to focus on products for the rest of my life, and I just want to keep taking moonshots from here on out and doing things that scale.
I definitely, it wasn't that I forgot about the Priceless acquisition. It was just kind of the cherry on top, saving the best for last. And so now that we've essentially caught up to today here in I guess it's technically winter 2025, the question that I like ending these episodes on is when you look back on the entire path from early on popsicle stick building houses to now having the former company being multiple companies that you've worked for, worked at, being acquired, and then now kind of setting yourself up for these moonshots, as you say. If you were to look back on the entire path that is your life on a the the LinkedIn profile side of things. What do you there's a lot of things that happen both inside your control and outside of your control that we attribute to as a butterfly effect. Because this happened, all of this other stuff happened. So when you look back on the entirety from start to now, what is the number one thing, whether it was something in your control or outside of your control, that you're like, this is the number one reason why I'm here today? So what is your number one butterfly effect?
Dude, that's a great question. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Faking it till you make it and just being more confident in the person that you are. If you don't push yourself to the next level and get uncomfortable, you're not going to get there. Like you're not just going to like move from level 1 to level 2 in life. You have to like pretend that you're level 2, push yourself, and then eventually you assume it. I wasn't qualified in my opinion to lead mobile development at PrizePicks and rebuild the app from scratch. I was overqualified in my confidence, but I was underqualified in my skills, in my opinion. There was definitely somebody better than me to do that. But there wasn't somebody who was going to work harder than me. Just like you said at the beginning of this call. I know for a fucking fact that that opportunity was meant for me because I knew I would work super hard and launch a new app in 90 days. There was probably somebody out there who could have built the app in 50 days that, or excuse me, in 100 days, um, and they wouldn't have had to work as hard as I did. But like I knew that I was capable of getting the job done, and I put myself out there. Even at season share, dude, I was not qualified to be a CTO at age 19 or at age 20. Uh, but I pushed myself and I assumed that position. And eventually, once I was in the pocket and I learned, uh, eventually it just felt natural. But there was a lot of imposter syndrome. And so my butterfly lesson, I think is how you said it, is you have to fake it. If you don't walk into rooms that you're not supposed to be in, you're not in the right room. And if you're the smartest one in the room, you're not in the right room either.
So I understand that that's kind of the focus of like the internal mantra, but which event of your life that has to do with what you just said do you think was the turning point? Uh, was it super early on when your dad was essentially taking you from a house building mindset into a software over everything? Was it the fact that you made that decision to go from Sacramento State to San Jose State, or was it the fact that you um, joined the Hyperloop team, or was it even later on when you were doing the season pass or the season company, and then you, because of the investor being in dipping his toes in multiple pools, that you got automatically connected to the Prize Picks team? So which of those, which are all what I've kind of categorized in my mind as multiple butterfly effects of the story, which of those is the most important to how you view this is the main cog, the main turning point of why I'm right here, right now, where I am in November 2025?
Wow. Yeah, bro. I mean, I'm just gonna bring it back to like my dad planting the seed, my man. Like, if dad didn't tell me like, yo, you need to be a startup entrepreneur, or like that's like the path that, you know, that you should take, um, I wouldn't have had the mindset. I wouldn't have, wanted to get to Silicon Valley. I wouldn't have taken a startup job. I would have tried to get into Google, Facebook, Microsoft, right? Like, if my dad was like, hey, get good at math, bring home A pluses, and be a software developer. Like I would have done the computer science route. I would have just been a coder and I would have been happy with like a 150K a year job and would have just been a developer at Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Apple, and just chilled in the Bay Area, had a big salary and an expensive house and paid a shit ton of California tax. Like that would have been my life. And I would have done the same thing every single day. But because he was like, yo, you need to be an entrepreneur. I got to see the struggles of my father as an entrepreneur. He went through a lot of ups and downs, more ups than downs, but his downs were tough. Um, yeah, like it was all about that mindset that I had started with. Like I was told that I needed to be this person.
And then now you're here, you're crushing it, multiple acquisitions you're a part of, and sky's the limit. I appreciate you jumping on this podcast with us and sharing your story. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to this channel. But also, as you see underneath his face, that's his full first and last name, to add him on LinkedIn if you want to reach out to him, if you have any other questions or what have you. If you send a connection request, as I always say on every episode, I can't guarantee that he's going to accept it, but you can reach out to him and try regardless. Alim, thanks for sharing this time to share your story. And as well, guys, if you want to see anything else, there's plenty of other episodes on this series, both past and then the future ones come out every week, Tuesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on the exact channel or podcast app or whatever that you're watching this on right now. So enjoy the rest of the episodes, guys. Thank you again, Alim, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I've been watching your journey for a long time, and you are definitely a hustler. I've seen you go from, yeah, like idea to where you are today. You're definitely crushing it too, bro.
I appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll see you.